The challenge that we've got with Wilding Tree operations is that they're in remote places, and so the time for emergency services to get there to be able to put water on the fire can be quite considerable.
It's got risks to people and it's got a huge financial risk as well. So we spend a lot of time and a lot of focus over summer making sure that we mitigate everything we can to make it safe around fire.
Consequences of a vegetation fire when you've got people spread across a hill could be quite catastrophic. We could be talking about severe injuries or potentially even loss of life, not to mention significant damage to property and the environment. One of the most critical components of any operation is how do they get there? And so driving vehicles across areas of dry vegetation is a significant risk in its own right.
All the vehicles are fitted with spark suppressors. When we get to site, we always make sure that we park in an area that doesn't have long grass. We designate an area for parking and we park there every time. The vehicles then, when they will park back into the site so they can leave straight out, so nobody has to turn around to leave. So all the vehicles are lined up ready to go. Keys are all on the same vehicles on the same place, so whoever gets the vehicle first, with our drivers, is ready to go to get everybody on board and out of there if need be. If there was an emergency and we had to evacuate off the site, we always initially try to get back to the vehicles. That's our first point of exit, and we'll get in the vehicles and get off site if need be. If that's not the case and the wind change happens during the day, we talk about the options we have with the wind change. Is it that saddle over there? Do we need to go this way today? Maybe the safest way on the day isn't the vehicles. So we always assess all those circumstances. And then we'll talk about, if we're working high, where's a good evacuation point? That might be the location we choose to get to, and we might end up having to call a heli in. So that's how we target what we're going to do on the day.
Any chainsaw operator or any power tool operator should be carrying a fire extinguisher.
So these are the extinguishers that all the chainsaw operators have in their belts. Their run time is only about 3 seconds, so the more of these that you can have on the hill, the better. Team leaders have an additional one.
The quicker you can get to that fire, the quicker you can deal with it, more likely you're going to have a successful outcome. So then it's call on the radio, get as many people there, and they are small fire extinguishers, but all of a sudden you've got 7 of them, which makes a difference. So that's our initial response every time.
There should be also a means to carry water, so whether that's some sort of backpack or knapsack sprayer or vehicle mounted spray tanks. Shovels, every vehicle should have a shovel.
You can either beat the fire out or just simple flick dirt over it just to contain or suppress that fire. And finally, a means of communication. It's really important not only to have a means of communication with the outside world in the event that an incident happens, but also to be able to talk to the other members of your team.
Really important to sort of stay connected as a crew. There's a lot of people on site and the site's fairly big. We're a long way from anywhere. So if something goes wrong, we've got to be able to communicate within the crew, and we use the radio for that. We run a product called Zoleo, and that's just an iridium based. There's lots of inReach is another product, and that pairs up to the phone, and that lets us send text messages. So if we want gear and stuff brought in, or if there's any messages, we can communicate with the helicopter. It's really good for that.
It's looking really good here at the moment, nice and green. But as things start to dry out, then we get to that point where we're daily monitoring things like humidity, temperature, wind speed.
That gets recorded when we're in different fire levels. So low and moderate, we record those hourly. And then once we get up to high and beyond, we do those every half an hour. Once any of those parameters exceed their rating, that's when we sort of have a red flag and stop and have a discussion and figure out another plan.
So it might be a problem day as far as the fire risk, but it might be a good day to work on hand tools in a certain area.
Most fires start in fine fuels, so in the grasses or in the case of pines, it could be in the needle litter at the base of the trees. As you get into late summer, into autumn, the grasses are what we call highly cured, so they're very brown. So it means there's more dead material, and it's the dead material that dries out and is available. But then if you're in alpine environments, you can actually get quite dry grass through the winter through a process called frost curing. So the frost draws the moisture out of out of the fine fuels, the grass, and actually makes it available to burn. And so we've had a number of examples of quite significant fires in the winter because those fine fuels are so dry. And I guess you know, the Ohau and Pukaki fires in recent years are good examples of that.
So one of the main causes of fire on site is a chainsaw, whether that's through the hot muffler, sparks coming off the bar, or if it's poorly maintained. One way to get away from the muffler causing a fire is if the tree is in amongst tussock or dry tinder, as you cut the stump higher, and also so you don't hit any rocks that are down lower in the ground that can cause sparks as well, that in the right conditions would start a fire as well. When you put your chainsaw down, make sure you put it somewhere where there's no dry fuel source. So best place is on a piece of dirt or on some gravel, or even if you just keep it up off the ground in your hand.
Particularly on a poorly maintained chainsaw, you can certainly get sparks coming off the bar, but if you're contacting anything on the ground, or even if you're slight twisting inside a tree, you'll create spark with metal on metal contact. Keep the chain sharp, keep the chains tension, and also make sure that there's no build-up of vegetation or debris around the bar or around the exhaust in particular. Fires may not start straight away. They may take time to build up from a spark, or it may just be that you've had dry vegetation up against the exhaust system, and so it's just smouldering away, and so it may take a period of time before it actually becomes an active flaming fire. And so it's really important at the end of the day, or particularly at the end of operations involving power tools, is that there's a period of time where you just monitor the site.
We take that time to give our chainsaw a good bit of maintenance on the hill, so give it a good check over, good sharpen, and make sure there's nothing caught around the clutch drum that can rub and cause a smouldering piece of tussock.
You want to try and be there for a minimum of 30 minutes at the end of the day to make sure that there's nothing that's going to pop up and surprise you in the night.